Good day, Mark Wagner here. Another awesome edition of Dental Bytes. I'm not too sure which episode this is going to be, but cruising along. The year is cruising along. It's crazy. This will probably be around April that this is out, so that's pretty well. And to my left, your right, we have Mr. Tyler McClendon. I have to get you your name bar back, Ty.
Oh, I'm Mark Wagner today.
You can be. You jump onto our mutual Zoom account and you're Mark Wagner, so you're probably used to it by now.
A lot of people know me as Mark, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me back on, man.
Yeah, well, you earned it. It's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah.
It's been a while, but anyways.
Excited to be back in the studio. I'm excited to talk to today's guest.
Yes.
I met Derek a little while ago, and this is great, man. I think that this subject matter is critically important right now. Mm-hmm. I know that we had our struggles with this during COVID, so I really am pumped to talk about this today. So, sort of jump in on your introduction there.
We're
right back into it.
The memory comes back. There's the jumping in front of each other. But anyways,
Tyler interrupts you a lot.
I'll let you introduce our guest then.
If you'd like me to, I'd love to introduce Derek, Dr. Derek Nordstrom from Toothy. Derek, it's so great to have you on, man. How are you?
Thank you. I'm really well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really well. The sun's shining, the birds are chirping. I was out this morning with my wife helping her milk the cow, and the chickadees were chirping, and it seems like spring here in Alberta.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're a super busy guy, Derek. So I got a little summary here, and like, how do you find the time? Like, you've got working on 4 practices. We got Toothy on the go. You're at the farm. The kids are homeschool. What aside from that, what's your jam? What do you do to disappear from it all?
Well, I know Tyler won't want to hear this being with a TV background, but to do what I do, people say, where do you find the time? I just say I don't watch TV.
Yeah.
I don't watch sports. I don't watch movies. If I'm speaking at PDC in a couple of weeks, if anyone comes to my presentation, all my pop culture references are from the 90s. I don't really have any new stuff, any new material, because I don't watch anything new. So
the 80s and 90s, that's where all the good stuff happened anyways. Yeah. So we're good.
Yeah. Derek, you and I are the same here, man, because I know you referenced my film background, but as a guy who spent time as a performing artist in film and TV, I watch remarkably little TV. I watch mostly the news is always on in the house. I watch Netflix. I do watch, I have a fairly wide repertoire in terms of watching stuff, but I don't watch a lot. But
I think that's familiar with the industry, right? That's kind of like dentists and their families, never get checkups and cleanings. You do it all day, and you're like, I
don't want to watch it.
Well,
I got a day off. I don't want to watch that show.
Let's face it, too. There's not much. Not much good material on TV. I find that most programming is a little diluted. All the good ideas are they're already combed over. It seems they're just kind of rehashing the same things over and over again.
Maybe.
But anyways, I digress. Yeah. We should probably get back to dentistry, I suppose.
Yeah, I want to jump right into this. So Derek and I got to know each other probably 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and we met. At a Sinclair meeting, just sort of talking about, you came and you presented to the group and you talked to us about Toothy, and this sort of it resonated for me because when we were trying to develop the virtual consultation tool with Dentist on Demand, there was a lot of questions around compliance and what is compliance and what are all the different categories of compliance and how does it impact everybody. And anytime I brought it up or it was sort of this subject came up in conversation, there was a lot of sort of blank stares. So when you and I started talking about compliance, it really captivated me. I was really interested to talk about all the different types of compliance. So let's just dive right in. What is Toothy? And just give us your elevator pitch, and then we'll jump in.
Before, a little bit of history about yourself, Derek. So I know you're busy with 4 practices. I would like to jump into that first because I think that's sort of the foundation of it all. Let's get into that, and then.
Sure. Yeah.
I see. I derailed you.
It's okay.
Well, we could talk about my favorite subject myself, so it's perfect.
There you go.
Awesome. Everybody's favorite subject. If you want to win friends and influence people, ask them about themselves. Right?
Just ask questions. Yeah.
I'm a practicing dentist. I graduated in 2005 from the University of Alberta. This is my 20th year doing dentistry. I read a book a while ago about managing a business of dentistry, and there's a really apt quote in it that said there are professionals who find themselves in business, and there's businessmen who find themselves as professionals. And the latter certainly describes myself. I've always had a passion and a love for business. I'm a good dentist. I like practicing. I like working with my hands. I love helping my patients, but my true heart is in the business of dentistry, as is exemplified now by my career over the last 20 years, to the point where I am now with 4 practices and a software company in the dental industry. I grew up in a farm in Viking, Alberta, and my father was the dentist in Viking, and both my brothers are dentists as well. So we're a family of dentists. I understand that my great uncle Ace was a dentist on my mother's side, 80 years ago. So it's something that's definitely been in my family for quite some time. I graduated from the U of A, like I said, in 2005, and I moved to Whitehorse in the Yukon. I worked for 2 years as an associate, and then I moved back to Alberta and bought my first dental practice in Wainwright, Alberta. I worked there for almost 10 years 12 years I had it. I sold that to 123 Dentist right before COVID. So I moved from Wainwright to Rimbey, Alberta in 2014 and opened up Nordstrom Dental, which you're coming to in a month or so, Mark.
I'm excited.
And you'll see that office. And that was actually really interesting because unlike most young guys or ladies that build a practice, you'll walk in and you'll probably be like, wow, it's huge in here. We play baseball in the waiting room. I was fortunate enough that I could build this practice with the backing of a very profitable business already running in Wainwright. So, I bought raw land, I built a really big building, I built extra space, which I, put the brewery in a few years later in 2018, because I couldn't rent out the commercial space. So I started the brewery, but I was able to build, the quote unquote practice of your dreams, and put in the best equipment and like 6-foot wide hallways and, high ceilings and just a really beautiful practice. So I'm really blessed to be able to work in such a beautiful practice in Rimbey, Alberta. And this practice has done very well for me. As I said already, I started a brewery in 2018, right when the brewery craze was taking off. I have a good young partner.
My apologies.
Sorry. Somebody didn't turn their phone off.
I've got a good young partner that actually does the brewing and the packaging and is running it. I'm not really involved. I'm more the silent partner, but I learned a couple things about myself in that process of starting the brewery. I learned that making stuff is hard. Making a physical product with input, cost of goods sold, quality assurance, logistics and shipping and taxes and excise with the AGLC, very difficult, right? Like dentistry is a service industry, and I found that making stuff is really hard. And I also found that other industries besides dentistry are very difficult. It's very tough to go into another industry that you know nothing about, with no background. You don't know the key players. You don't know the relationships. You don't know how they work. And trying to get market share in a situation like that was very challenging. I mean, the learning curve's steep. We opened the brewery right before COVID, which if it would not recommend running a restaurant over COVID. It was very difficult.
Yeah.
But we made it through. We are actually doing fairly well now. We are profitable, not the level of profitability of a dental office. I always joke that I'm buying more dental clinics. I'm not buying more breweries.
Ready to connect.
Our speaker wants to chime in. Sorry.
Jeez, yeah.
No
Keep going, yeah.
But anyways, it really scratched that itch for me of business, which I, it was a learning curve. And anybody that's in business, will tell you there's no substitute for actually starting a business, right? Like you can read books about it, you can talk about it, but just starting something and doing something, that's really going to educate you and teach you. One of my favorite professors in dental school, named Dr. Ed Peters, he was the acting dean for a year when we were between deans, and the dental hygienists, I remember this, were in a meeting and they were all up in his face complaining that they didn't feel ready to scale teeth. They didn't have enough practice to go into like actual human mouths and scale. And he said, you can read about swimming, you can talk about swimming, you can watch people swim, but one day you just have to jump in the pool.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And I really think that speaks volumes, because I think the analysis paralysis that people get in trying new things, whether it's, how many courses on wisdom teeth do you have to take before you actually go pull wisdom teeth, right?
And it's just like, it's all about execution. Everybody's got a fantastic idea. I think that's the difference maker in between good business and it's just the idea is the people that figure out how to do it and how to do it properly. What's your keys in that? Like, how do you learn about something, have that idea, and then execute? What's your philosophy there?
Yeah, I really think that if you want to learn about a business or learn about something, you call people you respect in that industry and go talk to them. Take them out for coffee, take them out for a beer, and go talk to them and learn as much as you can about it. But like I said, with the brewing industry, my partner and I did that. I mean, he's the one that the learning curve was very steep, and now we know the key players, we know how it works. But I learned very quickly that the other industries besides dental are tough, right? Life is tough, the world is tough, business is tough. Dentistry is this wonderful field of awesome individuals, serving a greater purpose of like helping people with their health. And something about dentistry that I never really considered as an advantage when I graduated, and I don't think most dental students consider this, is that being a private industry has huge advantages over the medical system where it's single payer, right? Like the government controls the health industry in the province to a large degree. I know that's changing a little bit, but dentists are able to pursue all kinds of different paths over their career, whether it's in education, whether it's in private practice, whether it's in owning multiple locations, whether it's in starting a company like myself. And I have many friends that have started other dental software companies like OraQ and Dent Hire and Smile & Co. And I know a lot of people that have started software companies in the dental industry. But I've got a friend who's an anesthetist and he's getting tired of doing anesthesia, and AHS is always making him do all the hard cases, the 90-year-olds that are near death, whereas he's an anesthesiologist. The anesthetists get the easy cases, right? The young, healthy people. But he's like, I can't, I'd love to start a company, but AHS has their own software. I'd love to buy more clinics, but it's not really a model that works in healthcare. You can't go buy more medical clinics, right? So dentistry has really given me the outlet to pursue my life's passion, which is business. I am most passionate about because it's private. And
from a really great foundation too, Dad being a dentist, and then two brothers as well are dentists. Also to mention, so if there's a great foundation to jump off of, you have it in spades. It's coming up with these ideas and finding that void. I think business is a fulfilling something that is missing, obviously. So I want to dive into, when did the thought pop up about Toothy?
That's what I'm curious to know.
Let's jump into how you met Stacy. Let's sort of get into that.
What was the genesis of Toothy?
When did you figure it out? It was probably in your probably at 3 a.m. That thought bubble comes up and away you go. How did things click for you?
So Toothy is kind of the culmination of my life's path. The saying people say, I feel like my whole life prepared me for where I am today. It's one of those, Toothy being in the business of compliance for dental offices. It's not really something I woke up at 3 a.m. and was like, aha, I've got it. This great idea. It's kind of this kind of cascade of events over my life, and it kind of started in 2011, February 13th, 2011. My patient health records were stolen from Wainwright, and the people that stole them used them to create robocalls to all my patients. About 164 of my patients were called, and it said Alberta Health Services, and the recording said, if you've been to see Dr. Derek Nordstrom, he's been diagnosed with hepatitis, and you and your family may have hepatitis. And I had patients phoning me crying. I had the police show up at my office because people phone the police.
Wow.
I had the Edmonton Journal calling me. There was an article in the Journal and in the local newspaper. I dealt with Alberta Health Services, and they determined very quickly this was a hoax. It's not true. I don't have hepatitis. And I worked with Alberta Health Services and the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner to kind of sort this out and figure out how my patient health records were compromised. And I self-reported for a data breach, and they were very helpful and very kind. And we went through and contacted all the patients that had been affected and told them what happened. Luckily, there was no identity theft or anything like that. It was a very difficult period of my life, and it was a real net positive in the end. I had colleagues and friends calling me and sending me their sympathies and support. I had people sending me flowers to my office. Patients started calling more to book their cleanings out of wanting the desire to keep my business going in Wainwright. And at the end of the day, I was actually busier because of it. That's saying any publicity is good publicity, does apply. But in a small town, I think it was very helpful as well because the community did rally around me. But that really opened my eyes to information security, which I do speak on at events now. And you heard, Tyler, when I spoke to Sinclair, a bit of information security background. The importance of passwords, unique login IDs, tiered access event logging of all your software systems, like the foundation of those things, which I started incorporating in my practice very shortly after that event happened in 2011, this was even before in Alberta, the Health Information Act became law in 2012. So I was ahead of the curve on implementing privacy compliance. So I was always very good with that. And when I learned from the brewery that other industries are tough and I'm going to stick with dental, and I started buying more dental clinics over the last few years, I found that the bigger I got, with more staff I got, they started asking me questions like the hygienist would say, we need full surgical gowns for prophy and polish. And I'm like, well, dentists don't need that. What are you talking about? And then, they say, well, we need thyroid shields for taking bite wing x-rays. And I'm like, well, dentists don't need that. And I really found that I just didn't know the answer to these questions. And I'd started Toothy already, but we hadn't expanded to all areas of compliance. And I just started talking to my friends, and they all had the same questions that I had, like puzzled looks on their faces about well, I don't really know the rules, and I don't really understand what we should be doing. And I really find that, despite me being unusual and that I have many practices and a software company, et cetera, I find that I'm fairly normal, and anything that I have a problem with in my practice or my staff have problems with, virtually everybody I know has the same problems. So I really started Toothy because I wanted to do something bigger in the dental industry as a whole. And I wanted to do secure and encrypted communication because I thought that all the solutions out there just were not very good. And the way to get people compliant is not the stick approach, it's the carrot approach. If you make something that's awesome and they love using it, and you build in features because you have unique login IDs and tiered access based on user role, you can build things like messaging systems for in-office messaging, talking to other dental offices. You can make referrals that only pull the names of the doctors in the practice, so the staff aren't sorting through 30 names in a busy practice to find the doctor's name, because there's tiered access. You've got people identified as doctors. So you can use the features that are required for compliance to build a communication platform that actually utilizes these compliance features, yet makes it easier and better to communicate. So you're not going to get people compliant by saying, I'm going to hit you with a stick if you're not compliant, use this crappy platform from the legacy software. If you say, well, we built this to be compliant, but you're going to use it because it's awesome and you love it, that's how you're going to change the world, right?
Derek, why do you think it's so difficult for dentists? Why is compliance so difficult? And, glaringly obvious why it's so important, but what factors are derailing your colleagues out there, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Compliance is so important in the dental industry because we're self-regulated. And we have a deal with the Alberta Dental Association that they endorse Toothy, and we've given a member benefit to all the dentists and we're working on that with the other provinces because they recognize that it's in everyone's interest to get dentists compliant. and by hook or by crook, like it's got to happen because we're self-regulated. In Alberta, in 2012, the Vegreville Hospital had a major sterilization failure, and that's when they started cracking down on dentists in Alberta for sterilization and the medical system as well. And then there was that unfortunate incident in Alberta where a 4-year-old girl was brain dead after a sedation procedure, or brain damage, I should say. And then they cracked down on sedation. And then my incident with my patient records being stolen, was a major problem. Identity theft and stuff like that in privacy laws getting put in for protecting patients' privacy. Every time there's an incident, the reaction is more laws and regulations. And dentists have the privilege and responsibility of being self-regulated, and nobody wants to see that taken away. But if the colleges and the associations who have to regulate the dental industry in the interests of the patients are not doing that, and these incidences keep happening and patient care is affected because of non-compliance, that's bad for every dentist in the dental industry.
Absolutely,
because nobody wants to see the government, coming in and saying, we're going to regulate you now.
Right? Why do you think there's so many offices that are not compliant? Why is that?
The main reason that offices are not compliant is the opportunity cost of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, dentists are busy, dental clinics are expensive, operating costs are higher than they used to be. The irony is the burden of compliance makes dentistry more expensive, right? But dentists just don't have the time to commit to actually implement this compliance, because in Alberta, there are 49 different pieces of legislation, standards of practice, codes of conduct, code of ethics, and each of these are documents of multiple pages to hundreds of pages that doctors not only have to read, but understand, customize to their office, and then train their staff on and create systems to implement it. So broadly speaking, there's 5 areas of compliance. And when Toothy, for our total compliance solution, it covers 5 areas: privacy and security, infection prevention and control, occupational health and safety, radiation, and then the office manual, which is a catch-all for everything else. And you say, what else could be left? Well, you get things like after-hours call policy, code of ethics, the sexual assault guidelines. You get things so esoteric as like guidelines on service animals and therapy dogs, triplicate prescriptions. And then you get into all your HR policies like social media use, cell phone use, dress code, personal sense, and grooming, all these things that you need to have for your staff. Because if you don't have rules, you can't fire people for not following the rules, right? So for dentists to actually sit down and write these manuals, like our collection of manuals are in excess of 800 pages, and they're all fully customized for the province you're in and for the dental office in particular. And for dentists to do this, like, it takes dozens of hours to do a terrible job and hundreds of hours to do a good job. And the opportunity cost is decreased revenue and billings or time away from your family. And dentists are just trying to keep their head above water and pay their staff's payroll the next week. They just literally don't have time. Like,
so Derek,
they
as
don't
I understand it,
and they don't have time.
As I understand it, Derek, Toothy is a one-stop shop for everything to do with compliance, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you said, how did I start this and how did I have that like aha moment that I said, I've got it, we're going to do all compliance. It was kind of a journey. Like my incident with having my health records compromised kind of started me on the journey of information security and privacy compliance. And, as I tired of clinical practice after 15, 16, 17, 18 years, I met Stacy Adamczak, who you asked previously how I met her. My wife homeschools our children, and Stacy and Aaron homeschool their children, and through friends and connections through our church, my wife and her ended up in the same homeschool group. So my wife came home one day and she's like, you really need to meet this lady, Stacy. Like, all of us moms are talking about like milking cows and making cheese and raising kids, and she's talking about starting online businesses and marketing and advertising.
I love it. That's great.
And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, Stacy's husband, who I'm really good friends with, I have breakfast with him every Wednesday, but like, he was going and teaching the kids gym class, and he's kind of like Mr. Mom. He works hard though in the oil field, but she's the entrepreneurial side of them, and she's her background is marketing and design and UI UX design that
Oh
she took
wow.
school in, and she started out designing websites and now is in social media and marketing, and so we just met them for dinner and started talking about it, and I said, look, I got these ideas, I want to start a software company in the dental industry, and I said, I don't have any background with like design or marketing or anything. Like I always joke with my partner in the brewery, like he's showing me can designs, and I say, look, you can ask me, but I have no taste, so don't listen to my opinion. Like I'll tell you what I think, but don't listen to it because I have no taste or design.
Honesty is a good.
My
Yeah.
wife dresses me. It's okay.
Yeah.
among
My
friends.
daughter picked out my suit and tie for me. She's
Exactly.
very on
So
point.
we talked the one-stop shop, Derek, and then
Yeah.
like in terms, so like when we talked about it a few weeks ago, the one thing I'm curious, and we talked about this, like when we went through COVID, everybody was up and like just like what's going on, what are the rules, what do we do, and part of me I felt bad for Bonnie Henry because she had 100 questions a minute coming at her all the time.
Yeah.
And and we would get when I'm out in the field working with my dental clients, they're asking me, they're like, well, what's compliant? What do I do? Where do I turn? So 5 years ago, I wish we had something like Toothy. So when you talk about an application of the actual software, how does it work?
Yeah.
Like how does it make it easier for people?
So when people are asking you questions, Tyler, and you're saying, well, I don't really know, like here's what the person asking you didn't do, and here's what you didn't do. You didn't sit down with like the 40-page IPAC standard from the BC College of Oral Health Professionals and spend 3 hours reading it, right?
Absolutely
Like
not.
everyone
You're correct.
No, and nobody's read the Personal Information Protection Act in BC or the Health Information Act and the Health Information Regulation in Alberta. So, like what I did, because I, with these other practices I was buying, I was getting asked questions and I didn't really know, and it was, kind of embarrassing. I'm like, geez, I really need to know the answers to this. I went back to first principles, and I hid in my basement. And I read the regulations. I printed off all the 49 different documents that apply to dentists in Alberta. And I've now done this for BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And I went back to first principles, read the rules, and I wrote manuals. And I didn't just write manuals for my office. I wrote template manuals that we can apply to every office. And Stacy digitized them, put them online, put them into a user-friendly format. So when you sign up for Toothy's Total Compliance Solution, you or your staff go online to our website on a private page, and you go through a questionnaire that takes about 20 to 30 minutes for each of those 5 areas I've already enumerated. And you just answer questions for like the infection prevention control during COVID. You go through and we ask, like, what's your low-level disinfectant? What's your intermediate-level disinfectant? Do you use a high-level disinfectant? Do you use an ultrasonic? What is it? What's your instrument washer? How many do you have? What are your sterilizers? What level of masks do you use? Do you have surgical gloves? Do you have exam gloves? And we just go through all these things, and then we create the manual for you. And the manual is a combination of 2 things. It's a combination of things you already do and a combination of things you need to do to be compliant. And when we ship out the manuals to you, all hard copy, printed out with really nice binders, all with dividers and really nice organization, they come with table of contents, quick start guide, log books, places to store all your manufacturer's instructions for use, staff training resources, including digital PowerPoint training presentations for all your staff, sign-off sheets for your staff. They've got all the forms for reporting needle stick accidents, privacy breaches, annual review checklist. So every year you go through the annual review checklist to make sure everything's up to date and everything's digital on a USB stick. We sign you up for our email reminder program where we go through every month over a 12-month period, the implementation and training of each of those manuals. And then it goes to like annual review, training refresher. So you just have to follow the steps for us to and go through the quick start guide to implement these manuals, because dropping the standards on your desk, you say, well, there you go, there's the standards, implement it, and people are like, Well,
Yeah,
A, I
no
haven't
kidding.
read it. B, I don't have time to read it. And C, I
Yeah.
don't even know where to start. So we take it and give it to you in a really nice package that your office manager can implement, because that's how I wrote it. So I can give it to my office manager and say, here you go. Start in section 1, quick start guide. This is the steps you need to do. It says go to section 1.15 of the privacy and security policies and get the privacy agreements with all these companies and put them in the binder. Stuff like that.
So when you do the questionnaire, and then they get the binder, so is that somewhat tailored to their practice based on the answers they give you in the questionnaire?
Absolutely.
Or is it you're kind of guiding them to like, okay, well, like you've already done all these steps, let's take you to step 3, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's the questionnaire will have drop downs. It's like, do you have an ultrasonic cleaner? Yes or no. If you put no, it'll skip you ahead to the next question, right? So it is prompted like that. But most dental offices are, they're all using an intermediate level disinfectant like Avicide, right? They all have an instrument washer. They all have sterilizers. We just need to know which ones they are. But if they don't have an instrument washer and they have an ultrasonic, then the part of the manual that breaks down how to clean, disinfect, and sterilize instruments will be modified for that office because they don't have an instrument washer, right?
I love that. I think that's such a brilliant part of the software or the service that you're providing to people, because everybody's at a different level of compliance. So if you can, like you said, get through that questionnaire and determine where they're at in the spectrum of compliance, that's a huge value add, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's
time.
I'm going to jump in here.
sorry, Mark.
I'm going. To me, like that gives such a great peace of mind. Like, have you calculated how much time offices are now saving with your service? Like, it must be like a massive amount of time. Like, that's
such an efficiency thing.
Like I said to you, it's dozens of hours to do a bad job and hundreds to do a good job. I have. I was in this position myself before I started Toothy, where, when I had to write a privacy impact assessment for my practice years ago, and I went in the weekend to try to do it, and you're like, this is dumb. I don't want to be here. I want to go golfing. I'm just going to bang this out and be done with it. And to look at something like as important as compliance in that way and say, I just want to bang this out and be done with it. That's like kind of saying, I want to build a really nice home for my family that we can live in for many years. It'll protect us from the rain and the weather and the elements and keep us safe and secure. But I want to do it in a weekend and get back to my life. But if you want to build a nice house, you're going to have to quit your job. And it's going to take you 6 months to a year to build a house yourself. Yeah. There's no conceivable way you're going to bang up a shack in 3 days that's going to be a generational home for your family. But if you want to protect your most important and valuable asset, your dental practice, from the assaults of government and patients and staff that may be unhappy with you, that report you for non-compliance because they're unhappy that you did a bad job in their dentistry, or maybe you let one of your staff members go and they want to get back at you and they report you, and the government comes knocking to check on your compliance, you need to have spent the time to build your compliance program in such a way that you know it's good. And what you said, that peace of mind, I was at a Sinclair event in Alberta a few weeks ago after I got back from meeting you, Tyler. The next week I was up in Edmonton at a Sinclair event speaking, and we signed up a new office there. This young guy's starting a new periodontic office, and during my talk, I talked about peace of mind, and I said, there's 49 different documents you have to know and understand, and you have to have your compliance program that complies with all these things. And I said, for me personally, I have great peace of mind knowing that me, as the responsible dentist of 4 dental clinics, that I don't even work at 3 of them, but I go to bed at night knowing they're compliant. It's just a really nice feeling, because I'm not just worrying that I know it's probably not good, but I hope it's fine, right?
Yeah.
It's that willful ignorance that people will have about I know I don't really have a radiation code of conduct and quality assurance program, but it's been fine for 15 years. It'll probably stay fine. And this young guy that signed up, I said, why'd you sign up? What made you pull the trigger on this? He said, when you talked about peace of mind, that's what got me. I want to do dentistry. I want to run my business and serve my patients. I don't want to worry about compliance. And Tyler, to get back to your question about how do we solve this for people? The real value of Toothy is not you get your manuals and you're done. It's the ongoing implementation, training, and reviews that we prompt people for, and we monitor the regulations. And when something changes, we modify your binder, we send it to you with the changes and say, here's the new change, train your staff on this and have them sign off on it. You just have to check your email. You don't have to worry about this stuff, because the dental industry is full of offices that have some manuals and they're covered in dust and they haven't looked at them for 6 years. And they go, geez, we should probably look at those things and maybe check if they're up to date, right? But Toothy handles that for you. It's turned compliance into something that not only can you be confident that you have the tools you need for your staff to implement it, but when things change, we handle it for you.
Right.
I think every new practice being built should have Toothy from day one. Like, it should be, I'm not going to use the word compulsory. Obviously, it can't be mandatory, but I'm saying, like, you know, when you talk about when you went to speak to the folks at Sinclair and Edmonton and you came and spoke to us, the first thought that came to my mind is, well, when we're putting a practice together in Vancouver here or anywhere in BC or Canada for that matter, how hard is it to have a Toothy subscription right when you open your doors? Like, it just seems like a really a reasonable insurance policy, in my opinion. I
mean, to me, it sounds like a complete no-brainer. You know, why are regulators cracking down right now? Like, what's the risks in being non-compliant?
Or are they cracking down?
Are they?
Are you seeing that out there?
No, they certainly are cracking down. Across the country, dental in Alberta, I'll just use an example. In 2003, when I was in dental school, the Dental Association, they added the word college to it. It became the Alberta Dental Association and College. And I remember thinking, oh, it just sounds fancier, right? Like, that, why would they add that word on there? The college protects the public. The association protects the interests of the dentists. And it's really hard to kind of square that circle where you're doing both, right? And when people complain to the association and college and say, my dentist, did me poorly, I'm worse off because of it, they didn't communicate, and there's a discipline proceeding and a hearing and perhaps a judgment and a sentence, whether financial or time suspension, they were the ones adjudicating and enforcing that. And now across the country, the associations and the colleges are splitting up because the government sees that it's not in the best interest of the public to have the association representing dentists also being the people that represent patients, or the group that represents patients. So when the association left the college 2 years ago in Alberta, that's when compliance went through the roof, because our annual review, when we got our license, to renew our license, it used to just be 2 questions. Do you have 60 hours of CE, and do you have your CPR? And give us your money, here's your license. Right. And now this year, and I talked to you about this when I was at your office, Tyler, there are 235 yes/no questions about compliance on the 49 pieces of legislation and documentation that you need to be compliant with, that you're saying to the college, yes, I'm in compliance. Yes, I have a radiation code of conduct. Yes, I have a quality assurance program. And that's just setting dentists up, because if you put yes or no to that, they can say, well, you willingly know you're not compliant. And if you put yes, and there's a complaint and a subsequent investigation, and they find you don't actually have a code of conduct or a quality assurance program, they're saying, why did you check yes to that? Right? And the discipline committee is run by lawyers now. They're not run by like a retired dentist that understands what it's like to practice. So the college actually is your adversary. And in BC, the College of BC Oral Healthcare Professionals, they're right in the middle of updating all their standards of practice, right? They're modernizing them. Your IPAC guide is from 2012 in BC.
Yeah, so that's
so things are about to get a lot more stringent.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to ask you next. So there's different jurisdictions. Every province has their own sort of playbook and rule book. So is everything kind of going to be on an even playing field now, or is everything going to be kind of the same sort of template per province? Is everything going to kind of amalgamate? How does that going to work?
So I may be one of the only people in the country that's actually read in depth back to first principles, the privacy legislation, the infection prevention control standards of practice, the occupational health and safety regulation of Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario. They're largely similar. but they do have their own idiosyncrasies and differences. Definitions are one of them that varies. In BC, your privacy laws are called organizations. That's the business that owns that protects the health records. In Alberta, it's called a custodian. But in broad strokes, privacy laws deal with the collection, use, disclosure, and protection of health information, right? IPAC rules are the cleaning, disinfection, and sterilization of non-critical, semi-critical, and critical items. Those don't change. And a lot of these provinces, when they put out like your OIPC, will put out like a help guide to implementing PIPA in BC, and they'll say at the end, like, big thanks to the Alberta OIPC for helping us with our implementation guide. So there is a lot of overlap, and I'm sure that these groups and organizations are meeting regularly to update their standards. And a lot of the standards actually, I don't want to say they're plagiarized, but like they use the exact same wording, they have the exact same checklist for many things, but then they actually diverge for some things. Like for example, in BC, you have to monitor your time, temperature, and pressure of your sterilizers to the extent possible.
Right.
Which means like maybe glance at it when you walk by. In Alberta, we're required to have a physical printer or data logger on each sterilizer and download it daily to a computer. I'm sure
this is the change you said. This happened in 2012. This was implemented, or
no? In Alberta, that was 2023. We had to get electronic data recorders on our sterilizers. So I would imagine like BC is quite far behind in some regards for sterilization monitoring because you do have some older standards. They didn't have the technology back then. So I suspect you will be more modern shortly when they release the new standards in 2025, which is really good if you happen to be a dental equipment salesman.
I wonder who that could be. But I think that that's always kind of been because I've spent time with my colleagues in Alberta, and then or coworkers, and then I spent time in BC, and that's like even going back to like 2011, 2012, seeing how they did, sterilization protocol in Alberta just seems so different from how they're doing it in BC. And yes, to say BC was behind, that was the perception. It kind of still is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
well,
I referenced.
I already referenced in Alberta the Vegreville Hospital scandal where the instruments at the Vegreville Hospital were not being sterilized. And that was I think it was in the late aughts or early 2010s. And like there were holes in the drywall and they weren't actually sterilizing like medical instruments for like hip surgeries and stuff. And like the poop hit the proverbial fan then, and AHS cracked down on sterilization and set up centralized sterilization areas. But like dentists and other professionals that have to sterilize things like veterinarians, like major crackdowns on those colleges to protect the public. And that's when we went to like, you had to have dedicated sterilization areas. You had to have a sink in your sterilization area.
Those are the differences I was seeing.
Yeah. And that's like, that's when they just went crazy on sterilization, which is not a bad thing. I mean, it does protect the public. I'm not saying this is bad, but affecting the dental industry, trying to change people, it's like turning an oil tanker around. Like they spent like 5 to 10 years harping on dentists to rebuild their sterilization area, and generally we're all very compliant now, but other provinces are following suit with that as well, and hopefully it doesn't take like a major disaster like a sterilization failure in a big hospital to spur that to happen.
And
to answer your earlier question, all provinces are heading in that direction, and they are becoming more overlapping. In Alberta, the hygienists just released new sterilization standards, which moved quite a bit closer to the dental standards. There are still some differences, like they have to wear full gowns for prophy and polish. The dentists don't have to, but generally they are all kind of starting to trend toward the mean now, which is Alberta. We're a little more strict than most other provinces.
Yeah, I just hope there's no trigger event in BC to say, oh, we got to change things fast.
I agree.
think it'll be a phased approach, right?
And that speaks to my earlier point about self-regulation and the privilege and responsibility that comes with that. And it's in the interest of regulators, the college and the association and all dentists to have their compliance in order. Because, I use the analogy, like accidents happen, right? You could be driving alone in the dark and it's raining and thundering and lightning. Your windshield wipers are just going like this and you hear bump, bump, bump. And you're like, what the heck? And you get out and you ran over somebody that's passed out in the road. And you go, oh my gosh. You call the police and you call 911 and you stand there and you try to revive the person. And, but you were not speeding. You had a seatbelt on. You were sober. You pulled over. You did all the right things. if you were drunk and you flipped your car and were passed out in the ditch when the cops showed up, like you'd be far worse off, right? Like nobody wants to have a sterilization accident. Nobody wants health records to get out to someone that isn't supposed to see them. But accidents do happen. A copy paste error can send health records to the wrong location. Like typing in the phone number, if you're still using fax machines, the wrong fax number can fax it to the wrong place. But if you have systems in place, like a confidentiality page on your fax machine, I really hope no one's using fax machines anymore, but like if you're
they're out there.
There's a few.
I've seen them.
If you have unique login IDs, tiered access, and access event logging, and you can say, yes, it went to the wrong person, but I'm the one that sent it. I sent it on this day at this time. We use a system that tracks these things. The reason this happened was because of XYZ. I was typing this email and I copy pasted, and then I sent the next one with the referral, but it was to the last doctor I was emailing about golfing on Saturday, right before that, or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's an accident, and you self-report that. And Toothy's binders come with all the forms to self-report a data breach. And you're not going to get in as much trouble if you have a privacy program. But if you just don't have anything, and they come and follow up in a complaint and say like you have nothing, and you're like, yeah, I know, I was too busy golfing to come in and do my privacy compliance program, so I really don't have anything. Like that's not really acceptable nowadays. Yeah.
Okay, Derek, how do folks get proactive and get in touch with you? How do they get started with Toothy? What's the best steps?
Sure. Our website is toothy.io. So TOOTHE, tooth with an E, .io. And everything there talks about our compliance solutions. You can buy compliance manuals individually, the IPAC manual, the OHS, radiation, office, and PIA or privacy manual. You can purchase them individually. You can purchase Toothy Messenger individually. Our most popular product by far is our total compliance solution, where we bundle everything together for a monthly price. And you get all 5 manuals up front. You get the training resources, the quick start guide, the annual review checklist, the Toothy Messenger, and all the training, implementation, and follow-up and updates as regulations change to give you that peace of mind so you can get back to what really matters, which is treating your patients and providing awesome patient care.
Or for you, back to the farm with the cows and chickens and...
That's right.
and brewery and everything else.
I'm in charge of patching fences and feeding them hay bales, but my wife does the animal husbandry. Raising animals is tough. There's so many unknowns, right? One day they're sick, one day they're dead. If you have livestock, you have dead stock. I like software because, like, if it's programmed right, it works every day of the week.
Well, and here we are. We're in a digital age, and you just have to be proactive with this stuff. Like, we've heard horror stories where you've the Trojan virus and somebody's locking up information. Like, it's getting more sophisticated out there. And
I think that like you mentioned, Derek, like if there is a breach or something does happen, having that paper trail to at least like know that something's happened and say like, you're probably going to solve the problem a lot faster if you have all the documentation in place, right? So like you talk about opportunity costs. I mean, how much time is money in dentistry? We all know this. So like, how much time are you trying to save if you do have a breach, right? So I think it's like, you can't really quantify it, but I know there's a pretty big price tag on the amount of time it's going to cost to unlock your data, right?
A dentist, a good KPI for a dentist is $500 to $600 an hour. Right. And a hygienist should be doing 150 to 200, just figure out how many chairs you have, how many dentists you have, and imagine your office was shut down. And that's probably more than, 5 years of Toothy subscription, 2 days of your office being shut down. Right.
Yeah.
And for you to even try to do this stuff on your own on the weekend, it's like why don't we build our own houses? We make more money doing dentistry to pay a carpenter to build our house, and they do a better job more efficiently with the right tools. Like, we are dentists. We should be doing dentistry. We should not be trying to write our own compliance programs. Totally, I've done it for you, and you can go back to dentistry or spend time with your family. Yep,
there's tons of variables there, and things could be missed. Like human error, right? Let's avoid human error. Let's let's simplify. Let's make life easier on ourselves. Derek, this has been amazing. I'm really looking forward to getting out there in Alberta and getting into the practice and
I'll even take you to the brewery.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's what I was hoping for, honestly.
It's right beside my dental office.
Perfect.
I want this software to be mandatory with all my clients. Now, you briefly mentioned the PDC. I know I'm messing with your timeline a little bit.
Well,
but
this will be after, but again, just to remind folks to get in touch with Derek. He's mentioned hop onto their website, toothy.io.
Also, like if you happen to come across this episode, maybe you're listening to it on the way to work or something, and then at some point it dawns on you, oh geez, we really need the software. Just if you forget what it is, or if you're trying to remember the name of it, just drop us a line, because we know I have a direct line to Derek. We can always get him on the phone with you or get his team in touch with you. So either contact us or Derek and his team directly.
Yeah,
and
Derek at toothy.com.
Don't send them a fax.
Don't send them fax.
Yeah, we're not accepting fax or smoke signals anymore.
Derek at toothy.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Awesome.
Derek, it's been great having you on today, man. I really think you have an amazing
enjoyed
solution.
Yeah.
Mark,
yeah.
Tyler told me earlier that the ratings crashed when he was on the podcast, and I was like, oh, Mark, it's so nice to see you. Tyler doesn't do the podcast anymore, unfortunately. He's like, oh, no, he's coming. I'm like, well, we're talking about compliance. I mean, it's already super boring. How worse can it get? So.
Well, we did talk
Thanks
about
for
beer, right?
Man, I appreciate it.
We talked about beer and farming, so that makes it more fun, right?
That's right.
No, it was good. I'm glad you made it, Tyler. It's good to see you again, and I look forward to meeting you in a few weeks, Mark. And I'll hopefully see you, Tyler, at the PDC next week.
You sure will.
Yeah.
Thanks, Derek.
Have a good day, gentlemen. Thank you.
Appreciate your
Awesome.
time.
Thank you, sir.